I want you to pause for a moment and take a look at the object currently sitting on your face, or perhaps it is in your pocket, inside a velvet case, or sitting on the dashboard of your car baking in the sun. A pair of glasses. If you bought them recently, whether they are prescription glasses to help you see the world or designer sunglasses to help you look cool, you probably paid a significant amount of money for them. How much was it? $200? $300? Maybe $500 if they have a fancy gold Italian logo on the temple? Now, let's participate in a sobering reality check. Let's look at what you actually bought with that money. Physically, you are holding two small pieces of glass, or more likely, polycarbonate plastic. You are holding a small frame made of acetate, which is essentially a fancy word for plastic derived from cotton, or perhaps some simple metal wire. And holding it all together are a couple of tiny metal screws and hinges. If we were to break this object down into raw materials, you are holding about $3 worth of stuff. Maybe $10 if the manufacturer was feeling incredibly generous and used high-end titanium. So here is the question that should make you angry. Why did you pay $400? Why do a pair of sunglasses cost as much as a brand new iPad? Why do they cost more than a 50-inch 4K flat-screen TV? Think about the technology in a TV, the microchips, the pixels, the engineering. Now look at your glasses. It is molded plastic. Is it the technology? Is it the handcrafted Italian quality that the advertisements promise? Or is it something else? What if I told you that the reason glasses are so expensive is that you don't actually have a choice? You walk into a store and think you are choosing between Ray-Ban, Oakley, Prada, Versace, Ralph Lauren, and Bulgari. You think these are competitors fighting for your business, but you are wrong. You are trapped in an illusion. You are buying from one single company, a company that controls the factories, the brands, the shops, and even your vision insurance. They are the Mafia of Vision. They are the reason you are broke, and they have been price-fixing your eyes for 40 years. Today, we are looking into the lens of the biggest monopoly you've never heard of. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. Let's shatter the illusion. Let's go shopping. I want to walk you through the typical American experience of buying eyewear, and I want you to see how the trap is set. Imagine you walk into a typical shopping mall. You need a new pair of glasses because your prescription changed. Or maybe you sat on your old ones. First, you walk into LensCrafters. It looks medical, professional. There are doctors in white coats. You see rows of sharp, sensible frames. It feels like a hospital for your eyes. Then you walk across the hall to Pearl Vision. It feels more family-oriented, trusted, suburban. Then you see a Sunglass Hut. It's trendy. There is loud pop music playing, cool vibes, mirrors everywhere. Then you go to the luxury department store, or maybe to Target Optical or Sears Optical inside the big box stores. You look around and think, wow, capitalism is great. Look at all this competition. These stores must be fighting tooth and nail to give me the best price. You are completely wrong. LensCrafters? That is owned by a company called Luxottica. Pearl Vision? Owned by Luxottica. Sunglass Hut? Owned by Luxottica. Target Optical? Operated by Luxottica. Sears Optical? Operated by Luxottica. It is an illusion. It is a Potemkin village of retail. A fake facade designed to make you believe you have options. But surely the brands on the wall are different, right? Let's look at the frames themselves. You see Ray-Ban, the classic American cool, the choice of presidents and rock stars. You see Oakley, the high-tech sports performance gear, the choice of athletes. You see Persol, the Italian luxury handmade elegance. You see Oliver Peoples, the hipster chic, intellectual look. Guess what? Luxottica owns Ray-Ban. Luxottica owns Oakley. Luxottica owns Persol. Luxottica owns Oliver Peoples. Luxottica owns Vogue Eyewear. Luxottica owns Arnett. But wait, there's more! You turn to the high fashion section, the glass case with the lock on it. You see names like Chanel, Prada, Versace, Dolce & Gabbana, Burberry, Ralph Lauren, Michael Kors, Armani, Bulgari, Tiffany & Co. Surely, Donatella Versace is designing those glasses herself in a studio in Milan, right? Surely, Tiffany is making their glasses with the same jewelers who make their diamond rings. No, these fashion houses do not make glasses. They are experts in clothing, handbags, and perfume. They don't know anything about optics or hinges. So, they sign licensing deals. They lease their names to, you guessed it, Luxottica. This one Italian company manufactures frames for practically every major brand on Earth. They make them in the same factories, using the same materials, by the same workers. Then they stamp a Chanel logo on one temple and a Coach logo on the other, put them in different colored boxes, and charge you wildly different prices. It is estimated that half of the world's population is wearing a product made by this single company right now. How did this happen? How did one company conquer the world without anyone noticing? To understand the empire, we have to meet the emperor. His name was Leonardo Del Vecchio, and his story is literally a rags to riches movie script that explains his ruthless drive. He was born in Milan in 1935. His father died 5 months before he was born. His mother was so poor, she literally couldn't afford to feed him. At age 7, she made the heartbreaking decision to give him to an orphanage. He grew up with absolutely nothing. No family, no money, no connections. At age 14, he started working as an apprentice in a factory in Milan that made dyes for car parts and eyeglass frames. It was dangerous work. He actually lost part of his finger in a factory accident, but he didn't quit. He learned metalworking. He learned the machinery. He learned how things were built. In 1961, he moved to Agordo, a tiny, freezing village in the Italian Alps. The local government was desperate for jobs, so they were giving away free land to anyone who would start a business. Leonardo started a tiny workshop. He called it Luxottica, a combination of lux, meaning light, and ottica, meaning optics. At first, he was just a contract manufacturer. He made unbranded parts, hinges, screws, nose pads, for other companies. But Leonardo was smart. He realized a fundamental flaw in the industry. In the 1960s, glasses were considered a medical device. You didn't buy them to look cool. You bought them because you were blind. They were ugly. They were purely functional. They were like crutches for your face. Leonardo had a vision. What if glasses were fashion? What if they were an accessory, like a handbag or a watch? He started buying up his distributors. He wanted vertical integration. This is a boring business term, but it is the secret weapon of every monopoly. Usually, a factory makes a product, sells it to a wholesaler, who sells it to a distributor, who sells it to a retailer. Everyone takes a cut. Luxottica decided to own the entire chain. If you own the cow, the milk processing plant, the trucking company, and the grocery store, you keep 100% of the profit. And more importantly, you control the price. By the 1980s, he was rich, but he wasn't the king yet. To become the king, he needed to destroy his enemies. He needed to buy the biggest brands in the world. And the first war was against an American icon, Ray-Ban. Today, Ray-Ban is the definition of premium cool. It is the most recognizable sunglass brand in history. But in the late 1990s, Ray-Ban was garbage. It was owned by an American company called Bausch & Lomb. They had completely mismanaged the brand. They were selling Ray-Bans in gas stations, convenience stores, and drugstores for $19.90. The quality was terrible. The hinges broke. The plastic was cheap. The brand was dying. It was seen as something your grandfather wore while mowing the lawn. Leonardo Del Vecchio saw an opportunity. He knew the history. He knew Ray-Ban had been worn by General MacArthur, by JFK, by James Dean, by the Blues Brothers. He knew the cool was still there, buried under bad management. In 1990, Luxottica bought Ray-Ban for $640 million. Critics said he was crazy. They said Ray-Ban was a dead brand. But Leonardo had a plan, a brutal, brilliant plan. The first thing he did, he stopped selling them. He pulled Ray-Ban out of 13,000 gas stations and cheap stores across America. He effectively killed the supply. For a year, you couldn't find a new pair of Wayfarers or Aviators. He created a drought. He moved production from the USA to Italy. He upgraded the frames. He put in better hinges. He polished the lenses. And then he brought them back, but not at gas stations. He put them in high-end department stores and his own Sunglass Hut shops. And the price? He raised it. From $29 to $79, then to $80, then $129. Today, a standard pair of Ray-Bans is over $160. Did he pay drastically more to make them? No. The manufacturing cost barely changed. He just changed the perception. He taught Americans that Ray-Bans were a luxury item. And we believed him. We thanked him for charging us 5 times more. He proved that if you control the supply, you can dictate the price. But Ray-Ban was easy. Ray-Ban was for sale. What happened when a company didn't want to sell? That brings us to the most gangster move in corporate history, the Oakley War. In the 90s, there was one brand that Luxottica didn't own, and it was a beast, Oakley. Founded by Jim Gennard, a mad scientist who started selling motorcycle grips from the trunk of his car. Oakley was cool. It was high-tech. It was fiercely independent. They made their glasses in America. They hated the establishment. They were the brand of Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, and extreme sports. Oakley was huge, and Luxottica wanted them, but Jim Gennard said, no, we are not for sale. Get lost. Most companies would accept that. But Luxottica is not most companies. Leonardo Del Vecchio didn't take no for an answer. Remember, Luxottica owned Sunglass Hut. Sunglass Hut was the biggest retailer of sunglasses in the world. It was the gatekeeper. It was where almost everyone bought their Oakleys. So, Luxottica pulled the trigger. They simply stopped carrying Oakley in their stores. Overnight, Oakley disappeared from the shelves of thousands of shops worldwide. The impact was immediate and devastating. Sales plummeted. Oakley's stock price crashed. It dropped by 33% in a matter of weeks. It was a bloodbath. The company was bleeding money. They couldn't survive without Luxottica's distribution network. Luxottica starved them out. They waited until Oakley was on its knees, gasping for air. And then, in 2007, Luxottica made another offer to buy the company. This time, Oakley had no choice. They sold for $2.1 billion. Jim Gennard took the money and left, defeated. And immediately after the deal closed, like magic, Oakleys were back on the shelves at Sunglass Hut. But now, the profits went to Italy. This is the power of a monopoly. If you control the shelf, you control the product. It was a hostile takeover in the truest sense of the word. Now, let's talk about the quality. When you buy these expensive glasses, you often see a stamp on the temple, made in Italy. This stamp justifies the price. It makes you think of artisans in Tuscany polishing your frames with love. But is it true? Here is the secret of the Made in Italy label. According to European law, a product can carry this label if a substantial transformation happens in Italy. What does that mean? It means Luxottica can manufacture all the parts in China. They can mold the plastic temples, cast the metal hinges, and cut the lenses in a massive factory in Shenzhen, where labor is cheap. Then, they ship these parts to Italy. In Italy, a worker assembles the parts, screws the arm onto the frame, and maybe polishes it. Because the final assembly happened in Italy, they can legally stamp "Made in Italy" on the frame. You are paying for Italian heritage, but you are often getting Chinese manufacturing with an Italian screwdriver twist at the end. It's not illegal, but it is a marketing sleight of hand designed to extract more money from your wallet. So, they own the sports brands. They own the classic brands. But what about high fashion? Surely, When you buy a pair of Chanel sunglasses for $600 or Prada frames for $500, you are paying for French or Italian craftsmanship, right? You are paying for the genius of the fashion house? Nope. Fashion houses like Chanel, Prada, Versace, and Burberry are experts in clothing and handbags. They don't know anything about optics, so they sign licensing deals. They send some sketches or mood boards to Luxottica and say, "Make these for us." Luxottica designs them, engineers them, manufactures them, and distributes them. The difference between a $500 Prada frame and a $100 generic frame is often just the logo on the temple and maybe a slightly nicer hinge. The acetate, the plastic, comes from the same vats. They are produced on the same assembly lines. When you buy designer glasses, you are basically buying a Luxottica frame with a very expensive sticker on it. And who sets the price? Luxottica does. They know that if they price Chanel glasses at $50, nobody will want them. To a luxury consumer, a low price means fake or cheap. They have to be $500 to feel exclusive. It is artificial scarcity. It is artificial value. You aren't paying for quality. You are paying for the feeling of being rich. And Luxottica is banking that check. But wait, it gets even darker. Let's say you don't care about fashion. You don't care about Ray-Bans or Prada. You just need prescription glasses to see. You have vision insurance, so you feel protected. Meet iMed. iMed is the second largest vision insurance provider in the United States. Millions of Americans have it through their employers. Guess who owns iMed? Luxottica. Let this sink in. The company that makes the glasses also owns the shop that sells you the glasses and owns the insurance company that pays for the glasses. It is a perfect circle of money. When you use your iMed insurance, they steer you toward LensCrafters or Target Optical, which they run. They give you a discount on frames, which are their own brands. They are paying themselves with your premiums. It creates a system where prices cannot go down. If Luxottica lowered the price of glasses, their insurance division would lose value. They have rigged the entire game, from the factory floor to the doctor's exam chair. And recently, the monopoly grew even larger. In 2018, Luxottica merged with a French company called Essilor. You might not know Essilor, but they control almost half of the world's prescription lens market. They own Verilux, Crizal, Transitions lenses. So now, one single mega corporation, Essilor Luxottica, owns the frames, the glass inside the frames, the machinery to cut the glass, the store, and the insurance. It is a monopoly that would make John D. Rockefeller jealous. They control every single aspect of light entering your eyes. So, let's do the math. What should glasses actually cost? Most frames are made of cellulose acetate. It is a type of plastic derived from cotton. It is durable, flexible, and cheap. Industry insiders estimate that the raw cost to manufacture a high-quality pair of acetate frames, even with good hinges, is somewhere between $10 and $15. Lenses? Maybe another $5 to $10 depending on the coating. So, a pair of glasses that costs roughly $25 to make is sold to you for $400. That is a markup of over 1,000%. Let's compare that to other industries. When you buy an iPhone for $1,000, it costs Apple about $500 to make. That's 100% markup. High, but understandable given the R&D. But a 1,000% markup for plastic? That is unheard of. In almost any other industry, competition would drive that price down. If Samsung sells a phone for $1,000, another company would sell a similar one for $500. But in eyewear, there is no real competition. Because Luxottica sets the price floor. If they decide that cool glasses cost $200, then that is what the market accepts. Because they own all the cool brands. But, just like in our stories about pockets and colors, there is a rebellion brewing. The internet broke the wall. Around 2010, a company called Warby Parker appeared. They were 4 students from Wharton Business School, who lost their glasses and were too poor to replace them. They asked the same question we are asking: why is this plastic so expensive? They went to the same factories in Italy and China. They used the same acetate. But they sold the glasses online, direct to consumer. No LensCrafters middleman, no licensing fees to Prada. They sold them for $95, and they still made a huge profit. Luxottica laughed at first, then they panicked. Warby Parker proved that the emperor had no clothes. They proved that the price was a lie. Now, we see dozens of brands. Zenni, I Buy Direct, and independent manufacturers selling glasses for $20, $30, or $50. And guess what? The quality is often 90% as good as the $400 pair. We are finally seeing cracks in the monopoly. People are waking up. So, the next time you walk into a Sunglass Hut, look around. Really look at the wall of frames. Look at the Ray-Bans, the Oakleys, the Channels, the Purcells. They are beautiful objects. There is no denying that Leonardo del Vecchio built an empire of style. He changed the way the world looks at glasses. But know what you are paying for. You aren't paying for optical perfection. You aren't paying for rare materials. You are paying for a monopoly. You are paying for a marketing budget. You are paying for the illusion of choice. You have the power to vote with your wallet. If you want the logo, buy the logo. There is nothing wrong with treating yourself. But if you just want to see, if you just want to protect your eyes from the sun, maybe look a little harder at who is actually selling you the view, because chances are it's all going into the same Italian pocket. This was Behind the Seams. Thank you for watching this deep dive. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, what is the most expensive pair of sunglasses you've ever lost or sat on? See you in the next one.